So now we'll get into different types of BMS and classification. So the BMS are mainly classified depending on their functionality and working voltages, like high voltage and low voltage. Basically, we have low voltage and high voltage. In low voltage, class 1 is basically below 30 volts and 60 volts, and in high voltage we have two classes, class 2 and class 3, where class 2 is for less than 300 and 900 volts, and class 3 is for less than 1000 1500 volts. Usually any voltage less than 330 to 60 volts are mostly used in two-wheelers and three-wheeler applications, and anything more than 300 are used for cars, buses, off-road vehicles, etc. That is how the whole BMS are designed for, and any BMS which is less than 60 volts are little bit simple in their operation, whereas high voltage BMS are quite complex in their operation because they'll have higher currents to handle, higher voltages to handle, and there are a lot of cells in the high voltage battery pack connected in series and parallel, and they'll have to balance it in a much more complicated way with much more accuracy. So that makes the high voltage BMS very complex, and it has a sophisticated architecture compared to a low voltage BMS which is less than 60 volts. The BMS classifications are basically into two types: centralized architecture and decentralized architecture. Now let us talk on this architectures for a little bit more time on centralized architecture. So when we say a centralized architecture, it is basically simple, and it is mostly used for low voltage battery pack applications, where the same BMS board houses all the electronic circuits. It has all the monitoring and controlling required for the pack on the same board. So the single board houses voltage sensors, temperature sensors, which is used for regulating, calculating SOC, SOH of the battery pack. It senses all the voltages of the cells. It monitors, and it also performs the cell balancing of the cell. At the same time, it also has temperature sensors where it can monitor the temperature of the modules and take the appropriate actions by the BMS itself. So this is what the centralized architecture is. Everything is done by a single board, and also it has a power distribution unit, which is like the power cables coming from the module are connected to the power distribution unit, and then from there it is going to the connector, positive side on the negative side connect. And then we have a BMS which can also have some optional features like or a smart connectivity app or a GPS tracking, etc. So the image shown here is a BMS board which can have a CAN communication, which can have a charger based communication, and it can talk to all the cells in the battery pack internally. It can talk to the external parties also, like the VCU or anything, through CAN based communication. So that is the BMS centralized architecture. Now we have the BMS decentralized architecture, which is basically for the high voltage applications. So what does decentralized architecture BMS mean? Like, it is mostly applicable where the BMS is split into two types. Like, we have BMS usually where everything is done on a single board, that is centralized. Whereas when we have decentralized, it works on the concept of BMU and BCU, or can also be called as master BMS or slave BMS. When it comes to BMU and BCU, BMU is called as battery monitoring unit and BCU is called battery control unit. So when it comes to a functionality of BMU and BCU, BMU monitors the voltages and temperatures of the module levels. Each BMU has certain number of channels, and as per the channels the BMU has, it is connected to all the cells and it monitors all those cells, and that information is sent to the BCU, and BCU there takes the control of what it has to be done, how it has to be balanced, and etc. So BCU is the controlling authority over here, but BCU directly doesn't get in touch with the sensors or the voltage sensors of the cells. It gets in contact to the BMU, where BMU monitors it and sends the information to the BCU. So the BCU is something which can also house the PDU, which is the power distribution board. Some of them allow, some designs allow for that, some designs do not allow for that, but the PDU is something through which the power lines of the battery modules and the cells are passing to the PDU, and it is controlled by the BMS. Usually all BMUs and BCUs are connected through a proper communication wire, so that there is no lag between the communication between the BMU and BCU. So usually in some cases this BMUs are also called as slave BMS. When it calls as slave BMS, the modules where the voltages sensors and the temperature sensors are connected, it not just monitors. When it calls a BMS, slave BMS, it actually performs a cell monitoring. It also takes care of the cell cutoff voltages. It also does the cell balancing, and it also takes all the, it also does all the functionality that a master BMS has to be done, but it does only at a module level, and all this information again translated to the master BMS. So that's how the decentralized architecture works. So here is the image where we can see this is the master BMS, and here we have a lot of slave BMS, and slave BMS is connected to its own battery packs or battery modules. So this is a very big battery pack where there are different packs and modules, and each modules are connected to the BMUs, and all these BMUs or slave BMS are connected to the master. So this is how the decentralized architecture is done. So now, what is the need in HV for a decentralized architecture? So that could be a question. Why do we need that? So now, if we see HV pack, let us take the case study which we did during the first week. We saw that there are 400 cells in a single pack with 20 modules each. Whereas for a low voltage battery pack, typically it's a 48 volts, and we can just have 16 cells with 2 modules with 8 cells each. So that is the case with a 48 volt. It's just 16 cells, and whereas for the high voltage pack we have 400 cells. Each module is of 20. Each we have 20 modules, and each module again has 20 cells in that. So remember, when we have so many cells and the area of the pack is so big, like 1.5 cross 1.5 cross 0.4 meters, just imagine if we want to connect a voltage sensor from this end of the module where the BMS and the BMU is on the other end of the battery pack. The wires it has to be run is across the perimeter, which makes it almost like 2 meters long. So that is the wire of a sensor that is needed. And it's not the wire of the sensor that is important over here. Most important thing is the precision of the measurement. So if we have such longer wires, these sensors would be prone to a lot of disturbances like noise, frequencies, etc. And there are a lot of electronic components where the signal or the transmission of the data might be affected. That is where the EMC comes into picture. So that is one of the reason where we would lose the voltage sensor's effectiveness because of its length of the wire. And also there could also be a lot of connection reliability problems that would come into picture, like the pack is subjected to a lot of vibration. And when such things happen, there could also be a situation where the voltage sensor can cut off or the connector might become loose, which means there is no proper reliability for the connections in such cases. So the sensor's wire, it is good if it is short because there is a BMU which is right next to the module and it gets connected to that, and there is only one wire coming from the BMU going to the BCU or the master BMS, which is okay. Instead of having hundreds of wires, just having one wire is fine, and it also ensures good reliability against vibration and shocks. And then versatility. Now, when we say about versatility, each BMS can handle, for example, in a centralized BMS, it can handle only fixed number of cells, like 20, 30 or not more than that. When it comes to decentralized, you can always choose a master BMS which can handle 5 to 10 BMUs, and each BMU can handle 50 to 60 number of cells. Usually that is the product which is available in the market. So if you have 400 cells where each BMU could handle 50 cells, so you can have total 8 BMUs, and you can have a BCU which is having 10 channels for the BMUs to handle. So which essentially makes the whole architecture scalable over a period of time. You can reduce the number of BMUs, you can increase the number of BMUs whenever the modules are reduced or increased. So in this way, you can have different variants created when you want to design a battery pack for some other application. So this is something where you can have versatility in designing the BMS. So here is a sample wiring harness overview, and like we have a module with 14 cells and there are connected with bus bar, and we can see we have voltage sensors at every bus bar located, and we also have temperature sensors wherever we have hotspots, and all these are going to the BMS. Either it can go to the BMU or it can go to the BMS board. So now we'll understand what is the wiring harness. Like we saw in the previous slide, the wiring harness for the above slide where we saw 14 cells in a module. Each bus bar for series connection can be fixed with a voltage sensor, and that voltage sensor will help the BMS in stopping the cells for terminating when overcurrent happens or over discharge happens or higher temperatures are reached or abusive high C rates conditions. So these are the sensors responsible for monitoring the voltage of those cells, which goes to the BMS and where the BMS takes the appropriate action. So whereas in HV, this can depend on number of modules, each number of modules into the number of cells it has, and that also depends on the BMU's capability to handle that many number of cells. And if it's not able to handle number of cells, depending on the kind of number of cells, we can always add another BMU, and such number of BMUs can be added all together and which are finally connected to the BCU. So that is how we have a wiring harness overview for both. So low voltage or low voltage BMS or BMS for voltages less than 60 volt is very simple. Everything happens on single board, whereas the BMS for high voltage is quite complex, and that's the reason you need to split it into BMS, master BMS, etc. So this is the architecture for what we have. Here for ease of understanding, I have taken one module and each BMU for that, whereas 2 or 3 modules can be handled by a single BMU as well. If we have a BMU with 60 channels or 50 channels also, which is readily available across. So here we can see we have a module, we have each BMU. All these BMUs are connected to the BCU, which is a battery control unit. And the positive line is in contact with the precharge contactor and precharge resistor. This is nothing but a precharge circuit. And this precharge circuit is responsible to save the electronics of the battery of the vehicle, controller and motor from high inrush current which comes from these modules. And apart from these modules, we have power connectors, we have OBC, which is nothing but onboard charger, and we have a low voltage connector, which is nothing but communication port, which is needed for CAN communication from the battery pack to the VC. This high voltage pack, like the low voltage, also consists of all the voltage sensors, temperature sensors, power connectors, etc. So those are all the critical parts of a high voltage battery pack. So here we have a HVIL loop, which is also a critical part of the architecture, which we would learn and understand about each and every part's role in the later slides. So this is how a HV pack architecture looks. It is quite complicated. Here it's quite simple in line diagram, but it becomes very complicated. So as we saw in the components HV architecture, so this is what it has. Like there are a number of modules as per the voltage and current requirement. We have BMUs and BCUs equal to that of the battery modules and the number of cells in that. We have precharge circuit, consists of resistor, contactor and other wiring harness required. We have current sensors, contactors, and on the positive line, current sensor is something which is talking to the BMS to understand whether the right amount of current is being delivered or not, or if any extra current is being asked for. And then we have a master BMS which monitors the whole pack, and then we have wiring harness which includes voltage sensors, temperature sensors, low voltage connectors, etc. And we have H, as I showed, this is a loop, high voltage interlock loop. So that is something which is very important for the high voltage battery pack. So we discuss each of this component in detail once we have a case study done. So this is a case study for a high voltage pack. Now we have 630 volts, 200 Ah pack, consists of 3.2 volts and 100 Ah prismatic cell. Now for a series combination, we have 200 cells in series, and for parallel combination we have 2 cells in parallel all together, which gives we get 640 volts. We have 200 Ah of capacity formed, which means the resultant pack capacity is 128 Ah, and we have module configurations of 20 numbers in 10s2. This is nothing but the case study we had. For this, what are the wiring harness details we have? Wiring harness would be BMUs or the slave BMS required are, since we have 20 modules, I am assuming that this BMS has only 20 channels, so we need 20 numbers. If the BMU is capable of handling 40 channels, then this reduces to 10 number of BMUs. If the BMU is capable of handling 60 channels, then this becomes to even more lesser. Like that, the whole BMUs can be sorted out how many BMUs are required for the whole pack. And then we have voltage sensors. So we have 10 cells in series for a module. So we'll have 10 voltage sensors throughout the module. And then we have temperature sensors. So temperatures are something which we decide depending upon the hotspots of the module through thermal analysis. So that is something which is open, which can vary depending on from one OEM to another OEM or from one result to another result. So now we start about the functionalities of BMS and other components used. So let us start to understand each and every functionality of the BMS and other components. So firstly, as we know by now that master HV architecture consists of a master BMS, and some of its major functions are like controlling the BMU boards, parameters received, and it has to also assess and evaluate all the controls. So BMS major functionalities, apart from controlling the C rates, controlling the BMU board parameters received, etc., it also have some optional features or some important features that are like it is responsible for controlling the contactors, the on and off position of the contactors. It is responsible for controlling the walls of the cooling plates, like the kind of flow rates needed for a cooling plate to switch on and switch off. Those are something which is controlled by the BMS, master BMS only, and it is also one of the monitoring element to understand at what flow rate the cooling fluid is being passed through. So it can also control that flow rate by opening the valve fully or opening the valve half, and that way that becomes the whole architecture more complicated, but that is something which can be integrated in the BMS to do that kind of controls as well. So basically the master BMS is basically responsible for communication with the VCU and the battery packs also. Another most important part is the precharge circuit. Usually the precharge circuit, as we saw, it consists of a resistor and a precharge contactor, and it is basically used to withstand a high inrush current which is coming from the battery pack when the ignition is turned on. When the circuit is open, what happens is there is a high inrush current because the battery pack is fully charged and it's a very higher potential. There's a tendency that the voltage always moves from high potential to lower potential, and when the ignition is turned on, that means when the loop is turned on, the other components in the EV driveline like the controller and the motor have much lower voltage potentials. So when such high inrush current comes in, there has to be something to stop such high inrush current so that the electronics and all the wiring harness etc. are not damaged because of such high inrush current voltage. And that is the reason why we have a precharge circuit where the resistor and the contactor there stops most of the inrush current, and this is for a very small fraction of second, maybe 0.5 seconds or 1 second, and then after it becomes normal. So this is equal to that of I would like to draw an example over here. Like for example, you have a water tank which is fully loaded with water, and when you switch on the tap, the water gushes out with a full force, and later on it becomes very normal. So this is also the same, but when such high pressure is coming up, you need something to hold. So that is what the precharge circuit does over here. So this is what the precharge circuit function is, and that is actually the contactors are all operated by the BMS itself. And then we have HVIL, which is called as high voltage interlock device or interlock loop, which is necessary to provide the contactor interlock to detect wherever there is a poor connection between a HV or there is any open circuit where that could lead to a live connection and it can cause electrocution. So it is very important to understand where there are any open loops and all. If there are any such open loops, it would send a pop saying that there are certain loops which are open. So that is something, a protective feature which is a part of BMS to handle it. Now this is how a high voltage architecture functions.